all the bad things people from the RCD have done towards any citizens, any Tunisian man or woman, and I invite people to open a new page to former RCD members.
But there are members of this once powerful institution who won't give up so easily. One lawyer told me only the RCD can protect Tunisia from what he calls the Islamist threat.
What is left for the Tunisians? Ennahda, the Islamist party, has the offices which are the mosques. It has the Islamic rhetoric, which Tunisians accept easily, and now there is a political vacuum.
There will be an appeal, but it's unlikely to succeed. In the past few months, there have been so many historic moments in Tunisia. March 9th will be remembered as yet another end of an era. Nazanin Bashiri, Al Jazeera, Tunis.
Well, now we have some developing news on our top story about Libya coming out of the United States. So let's return to Daljit Dhaliwal, who's outside the White House.
Lauren, thanks very much. Well, in the last few minutes, we have an update on Libya from here in Washington. The White House spokesman, Jay Carney, said that the UN arms embargo on Libya can be flexible enough to allow the United States or the international community to arm rebels if they decide to do so. And we will, of course, bring you more on that story as and when we get it. And let's move on to some other stories that we're following for you from here in the United States. Now, a senior Republican congressman in the United States is launching a hearing this week into what he describes as a rise in violent extremism in the United States. Peter King is chairman of the Homeland Security Committee in the House of Representatives. And the hearing, which starts on Thursday, is focusing on American Muslims and whether they've become, quote, radicalized. Kristen Salumi reports from New York.
We know the extent of the threat that we face.
Homegrown Islamic extremism. Congressman Peter King calls it a clear and present danger. He wouldn't speak to Al Jazeera, but told Fox News.
This is a real threat, and I want the American people aware of it, and I want to see also what we're doing to combat it. Yeah. And also I'm calling on Muslim leaders to be more critical in denouncing it.
But American Muslims are drawing comparisons with Joseph McCarthy's infamous anti-communist hearings of the 1950s. They're joining with leaders from other faiths, calling on King to stop what they describe as a witch hunt.
Violence is not only a Muslim phenomenon, it is in every other communities, and to single out one community to say they are the one that bringing this issue or causing the problem rather than treat them as a solution is wrong. We want to be treated as partner, not as suspect.
Community leaders fear that the hearings will fuel anti-Muslim sentiment and demonstrations like this one, which took place recently at an Islamic charity event in California.
Muslims may be the target of Representative Peter King's hearings, but they're not waiting for an invitation to make their voices heard. They're speaking out with petitions and rallies like this one here in New York's Times Square to present their view of what it means to be Muslim.
We are the #1 trending topic on Twitter and on Facebook.
Celebrities have taken up the cause, standing alongside Muslim Americans even in the rain. Supporters point out that 48 out of 120 terrorist plots in the U.S. were discovered thanks to tips from the Muslim community.
Just because you have the right to build a mosque.
King counters with his own figures. He claims radical imams control more than 80% of American mosques. The New York congressman has his own complicated history with regards to political extremism. He defended the use of violence in civilian settings by the Irish Republican Army in the 1980s and once compared the leader of the group's political wing to George Washington. His critics say he should understand better than anyone that radicalism isn't unique to any one culture.
This is the message that we want to say to Congressman King. Let this be hearings against terrorism, against extremism, against radicalism, and how it comes about, and not make it hearings against Islam and Muslim organizations.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I want to thank
King shows no sign of backing down. Thursday is expected to be the first of a series of hearings. Kristen Salumi, Al Jazeera, New York.
And a couple of other stories that we want to bring you from the Americas. Mexican police have arrested a man that they allege to be the finance chief of the Zetas drug gang in connection with the killing of a U.S. immigration official. Jaime Zapata was shot dead while traveling to Mexico City last month, and the Mexican authorities said on Tuesday that Mario Jimenez was detained in San Luis Potosí state along with 16 other suspects. Well, meanwhile, the Mexican army has killed at least 6 suspected drug gang members in a shootout. The Mexican Defense Department says that soldiers returned fire when the alleged gang members fired on an army patrol in Buena Vista de Cuellar in the southern state of Guerrero. Authorities later found 9 rifles in the area along with blankets and cooking equipment. That's all from us here in Washington, D.C. I'm Daljit Dhaliwal. Thanks very much for joining us from here. Now let's take it back to Lauren in Doha.
Thank you very much. Touchdown at the Kennedy Space Center. An historic homecoming for NASA's oldest and most travelled space shuttle. Much more on that in just a few moments. Plus in sport, co-hosts India move a step closer to a place in the quarterfinals of the Cricket World Cup. And how one player got more than he bargained for when he tackled a streaker. Details coming up next.
Business Latest is brought to you by Qatar Gas, delivering energy to the world. Business Latest is brought to you by Qatar Gas, delivering energy to the world.
From the ancient traditions of the written word to the power of photography and expressions of identity through dance, art is a constant feature of the human landscape. An underground theater group fights for democracy. Blind musicians make their mark in Bangladesh. Palestinian teenagers develop a photography project with kids from the other side of the wall. Across the world, art transcends physical barriers. Artscape, at this time on Al Jazeera.
Right, time for the sport. Here's Joanna Gajarowska.
Lauren, thank you very much. Cricket World Cup co-hosts India have edged even closer to the quarterfinals after a comprehensive victory over the Netherlands in New Delhi. Going into this match, India were unbeaten, having won 2 and drawn 1 of their 3 games. And their bowlers had no problems disposing of the Netherlands, who chose to bat first. A steady stream of wickets fell. Zahir Khan took 3 as the Netherlands were all out for